Hello friends, I am Dr. Parveen Sharma. I welcome you all. In this session, we will discuss the topic theories of emotion. Earlier to this, we have discussed in our previous lectures what are the emotions, how they are developed, what are the characteristics of emotion, and how the word emotion has been defined in a different manner by different psychologists, and how the emotional development takes place, and what can be the role of teacher in emotional development of a child. We have discussed all. Today in this session we will focus on the theories of emotion, but before we proceed further with the theories, let us have a quick glance and have a quick recapitulation of the background of the emotion. What is emotion? Emotions play a very significant role in our day-to-day life, and it is to be seen where do our emotions come from. What is it about the human body and mind that has the capacity to form emotions and reactions to a variety of situations? What is it that in a different situation we feel, and emotions are different from situation to situation and from person to person? Why do we form different emotions? Because when the situation changes, the emotions also changes. So how do these emotions changes? How do they occur? And if we try to distinguish between the emotions and feelings, emotions are associated with bodily reactions that are activated through neurotransmitters and hormones released by the brain, and feelings are the conscious experience of emotional reactions. There are some basic emotions like joy, happiness, anger, revenge, pity, sympathy, empathy. There are basic emotions, and these emotions, how do they occur and what are the characteristics of these emotions we have discussed in our previous lectures. Now we'll focus on the theories. Paul Ekman has said emotions change how we perceive the world, how we see the world, and it also changes, it also influences how we interpret the actions and behaviors of the others, because these are our emotions, these are our feelings which help us, which influence us to see and interpret the actions and behavior of the individual, because it all influence our personality development. So emotions play a very significant role in our day-to-day life. So what are the components of emotion? Before the theories, I would like to discuss the components of emotion. There are three: cognition, feeling, and behavior. And to be very brief, let us try to understand what do we mean by cognition. Cognition is to influence an evaluation of given situation, making emotional in one way or another or not at all. Meaning by, when we apply our cognition, when we apply our intellect, we try to interpret the situation, we evaluate, and in that evaluation, in that judgment, one gets emotional in one way or other and may not be emotional at all. And what is the second component? That is feeling. Feelings motivate immediately. They brings physiological changes in cardiovascular system, like blood pressure will be increased, and these kinds of symptoms will take place. And moreover, nervous system is also stimulated. And what do we mean by behavior? The third component, behavior, facial, postural, gestural, and vocal responses, all these come under it. So these are components of emotions. It was essential to have a background and quick understanding of the background of the emotions, why these emotions occur. See in this picture, how the different emotions are taking place, and one is trying to interpret the different emotions. So this picture shows how the emotions are occurring in the mind. Emotion influence all our decisions we make. Sometimes when we are angry, then if we take some decision in our angry mood, it will affect our decision. So it means emotions influence all our decisions we make and how we see the world. There is still mystery why we have emotions, how do they arise. Mystery is going on. We are trying to interpret and we are trying to put forward why the emotions arise and how they arise, but still mystery is there. How do they arise? And researchers have been trying to prove for a long time how and why people experience emotions, and a number of theories have been proposed after the researches of the researchers, and few of the theories we'll discuss here in this session. There are different categories. There are physiological theory, there is neurological theory, there is cognitive theory. So we will try to discuss few of the theories which will make it clear how the emotions occur, what are the opinions and views of the different researchers. Because by now we acknowledge that emotions play a very significant role in the development of the personality of an individual. So it becomes essential to understand the theories of the emotion put forward by the different researchers. See, the physiological theories, they suggest that responses within the body are responsible for emotions. These psychologists, they opine that the changes in the body, they occur first and then the emotions take place. So they wanted to prove that these are the physical changes in the body which creates or which brings the emotion. And the next is the neurological theories. These theories propose that activity within the brain leads to emotional responses. How the brain interprets the situation and the events, then emotions take place. And in the third, the cognitive type of theories, they argue that thoughts and other mental activities play an essential role in forming emotions. We will discuss one by one. On number first comes the theory, James Lange theory of emotion. See, we'll discuss this theory. American psychologist William James and Danish physician Carl Lange, both of them joined efforts and they developed this theory which asserts that emotion is the perception of bodily changes, meaning by when we perceive the changes which takes place in our body, after this perception of body changes, emotion takes place. It means bodily changes are experienced as emotions. Try to understand, viewers. They wanted to prove that when changes occur in the body and we feel or we experience, so whatever we experience, that is known as emotions. It was opined by the James and Lange. Further, they wanted to prove that this theory was opposite to popular viewpoint. How? The main point of this theory is that the physiological changes in the body take place before one starts experiencing the emotions. Because this theory was somewhat different to the popular viewpoint, they wanted to prove that first before we start experiencing the emotion, the bodily changes will take place. Emotions are secondary to physiological phenomena. This is what James and Lange opine. According to them, the perception of bodily changes as they occur is emotion. Further, they wanted to prove how the emotions take place as a reaction of bodily changes. We will see further that It describes the relationship between emotion and arousal. To be more specific, emotional experiences occur after self-perception of changes in the body. Hence, according to this theory, emotions arise from physiological arousal. What do we mean by physiological arousal? A very simple thing, that the physical changes or bodily changes occur first, then we experience the emotions. Then emotion producing stimuli leads to physical changes, and which leads to cortex, that is sensation of emotion. If child sees a tiger in the jungle, try to understand with this example. After seeing the tiger, child runs in terror and fear. According to this theory, on seeing the tiger, the automatic nervous system comes into play and the effectors make the child run. And then this running makes the child afraid of the tiger. It means it is not that the child runs because he is afraid, but he is afraid because he runs. Try to understand. They wanted to say कि बच्चा शेर को देखकर भागा इसलिए डरा, बल्कि डर कर नहीं भागा. And the critics were against this viewpoint. Try to understand further. We'll discuss. The physical changes precede the emotional experiences. It is the awareness of the physical changes which is called an emotional experience. And the classical theory of emotions emphasizes that emotions are the result of messages one receives from bodily changes while reacting to emotion producing aspects of environment. According to James, we feel sorry because we cry. We are angry because we strike. We are afraid because we tremble. See in this picture, James Lang theory of emotions says that in this picture one sees on the road that a car is coming at a fast speed, and after seeing the car coming at a fast speed, one's heart is pounding and the heartbeat starts at a fast speed. Then what happens? Then further the individual starts trembling out of fear. So it means through this picture it is clear that James and Lang, they wanted to prove that first, after seeing or after facing the stimuli, the individual starts developing bodily or physical changes, then emotions is being experienced. But this view of the James and Lang was different to the prevalent viewpoint. So obviously James Lang theory was criticized on some of the viewpoints. How? This theory has been criticized by other psychologists. Critics opined, if this theory is correct, then a specific emotion should follow a unique pattern of physiological changes. Various emotions like anger, joy and hate, etc. should have a different pattern of emotion, but it is not like that. So critics wanted to say, if James and Lang, they are correct and their theory is correct, then one should have a different pattern of emotion in different emotions, but it doesn't happen. Most emotions seem to be accompanied by the same general pattern. Moreover, it has been observed that the same person will exhibit different pattern of bodily changes while experiencing the same emotion when put in a different situation. Try to understand it more appropriately. It was put forward by the critics that if it happens that when one individual is put in a different situation, sometime it happens that one individual is exhibiting and experiencing the same emotion. Why it happens so? According to the critics, this theory says that stimulus produces a series of bodily changes but doesn't completely describe how these changes occur. Another psychologist, Cannon, along with his co-workers, made an experiment on cat. They took a cat and sympathetic system was cut along the whole length of the spinal cord. It was observed that Cat could not feel, yet showed the signs of anger when provoked through snarls and hissing, etc. And further, one more study by Oman was done. He made an experiment on the paralytic patients in whom the expression of emotion is impossible, yet they feel. So, these experiments were enough against the theory of the James Lange. Then the second theory is known as Cannon-Bard theory. Let us see what Cannon-Bard theory says. In this picture, we see stimulus in air travel, then cognition appraisal, then further it takes to physiological arousal, increased heart rate and emotion, then ego or the guilt. Let us try to understand further this theory. This theory was given by physiologist Walter Cannon in 1927 and Philip Bard in 1934. It is also known as thalamic theory of emotion. Sometimes it is called as emergency theory of emotion. According to them, the emotion that we feel depends upon the activity of the lower brain areas. See, Cannon and Bard, they wanted to say that it is not there that the physiological changes occur first, then we experience the emotion. They gave the theory in a different perspective. They said that emotions that we feel depends upon the activity of the lower brain areas. See, it suggests that the felt emotion and the bodily changes that occur in response to the emotion are independent of one another, meaning by both are independent from each other, they are not influencing, rather they occur simultaneously, meaning by the bodily changes and the emotion, they are independent, they are not influencing, they are not causing each other, rather they are occur simultaneously. They conducted various experiments on animals like dogs and cats. They wanted to find out the center of emotions in the brain. They removed certain areas of brain and tried to find out how the absence of these specific areas affect the emotional experiences. They also found out that the removal of cortical centers did not hinder much in the basic emotional responses, but if the hypothalamus was inferred, the animal was not able to show emotional reaction. Because this theory is also known as thalamic theory of emotion, because the brain plays an important part in the experiences of the emotion. It plays important part. According to them, hypothalamus is the seat of emotions. Because how do we feel emotion? This part influences, because in the beginning when we start discussion, we discussed that we know that the emotions are important, but still the researchers are making researches why one individual feel emotions and how these emotions occur. Here it reminds me Charles Darwin, who said that in his evolutionary theory, let's discuss later on, that for example a feeling of joy is important, feeling of love is important to make the world running on. So it means for reproduction this feeling is also important, because all the feelings are important, basic emotions. All individuals have basic emotions like anger, love, hate, sympathy, pity. We all individuals have these emotions in combination. When we discussed in our last lecture regarding emotional development, we discussed that a teacher can help the children how to control those emotions, and where a particular emotion is to be controlled and where an emotion can be expressed. That we have discussed. Now let us proceed with the theories. Kennan and Bard, they believed that the hypothalamus is aroused by perception of external stimuli. Then bodily changes are generated simultaneously and cortex is stimulated. Then the feeling of emotion is produced. So this theory does not explain about supposed stimulation by the bodily changes, because Kennan and Bard, they were not agreeing with the views of James and Lang, because they were saying that the physiological changes or bodily changes occur first, then we experience the emotions. But Kennan and Bard joined hands and tried to prove with their experiments that bodily changes do not occur first. Rather, emotions and bodily changes, they are independent of each other. They do not cause each other. They do not influence each other. Rather, they are taking place simultaneously. Both are occurring simultaneously. Then they opined further that a person feels emotions and experiences physiological reactions simultaneously. Person can experience physical reactions linked to emotion, then brain interpret the emotions simultaneously. Physical arousal and emotional reactions are evoked simultaneously on seeing stimuli. जैसे हमने बात की थी कि बच्चे ने शेर देखा तो वो शेर को देखकर डरा भी और भाग भी लिया, दोनों ही क्रियाएं साथ साथ हुई, बिकॉज अकॉर्डिंग टू कैनन एंड बार्ड बोथ दी changes are occurring side by side at a simultaneous speed. To be more clear, people can experience physiological reactions linked to emotions without actually feeling those emotions. For example, our heart might speed up because we have been exercising, not because we are afraid. It may be possible. Then, according to this theory, that neither the subjective experience nor the physiological reaction to a stimulus cause the other. They are produced simultaneously as the nerve from the thalamus, which goes to the cerebral cortex, causing the subjective experience of emotion, and the other portion goes to the effectors, resulting in physiological changes like emotional stimuli, changes cortex, then hypothalamus, then effector. All are influenced. To be more specific, it can be said that physical and emotional reactions occur simultaneously and independently. In other words, physical reactions do not depend on the emotional reactions and vice versa. They happen at the same time and does not cause each other. Cannon-Bard theory through this pic is being more cleared that they believed it was the thalamus that helped this happen. This picture is enough to make it more clear what Cannon and Bard wanted to prove. But this theory has been criticized on some points. This theory has been criticized as it does not explain the reason why the individual emotional responses differ when the emotion emerges from hypothalamus. Moreover, in most of the human cases, it cannot satisfy the result obtained on animal studies. So, I hope these two theories of James Lang and Cannon-Bard is clear to you, and it will help everyone to understand the basis of emotions and how emotional development of an individual can be made appropriate. Rest of the theories we will discuss later on. Thank you.